What's going on, everybody? This is Jared Barnes here, back with another episode of the Jared Barnes Show. So today is going to be Tuesday, December 22nd. We are 3 days away from Christmas. What a time to be alive. What a weekend in the NFL. Hopefully your team is on the cusp of a playoff berth. Hopefully your team is playing well. If not, there's always next year. The offseason is always entertaining and the future is bright. My team just lost to the Bengals in prime time on Monday Night Football. I'm going to talk about that. But today's Takeaway Tuesday. And I will be giving you 2 takeaways from every single NFL game from this weekend. Yeah, that's what I'll be doing today. But first off, I got to say this. New logo. This is like the 3rd or 4th time I've changed it. This is the permanent one for a long time now. This is the way I'm going to stick. My social medias have kind of updated. They've kind of changed. They've kind of conformed to this. This is what I'll be doing permanently now. So I hope you enjoy it. If you do, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. Share it with a friend because it's going to be with the help of you guys that I grow. So I'm looking forward to it. But here we go. Like I said, today is Takeaway Tuesday. And I got to start at the top with the Thursday night game because I haven't done an episode in a while. So on Thursday night, the Chargers took on the Raiders. My 2 takeaways from that game is, number 1, the Raiders defense is not very talented. Gruden and Mayock have their hands full with that defense. And if you watch that game, you clearly saw that Anthony Lynn is still too conservative at times, almost led to them losing the game. Justin Herbert only attempted 1 pass in the fourth quarter. But my second takeaway in that game is that Carr's time in Vegas could be coming to an end. Marcus Mariota played well. They weren't really doing much with Carr in the game. He got hurt. He wants to come back this weekend, but he has a very tradable contract and has a lot of value at this point, in my opinion. It all depends on how Mariota plays and whether Carr returns, but I think there's a chance that we have seen the last of Carr in a Raiders uniform. Next game up, the first Saturday game, Bills versus Broncos. And number 1, let's be honest, the more time that passes, the less it looks like Drew Lock is the future quarterback of the Denver Broncos. Every single game, he continues to make a case for why Elway and the Broncos should just move past him. Every week it gets worse for him. And the second takeaway is that Josh Allen has completely entrenched himself into the MVP conversation. He has pushed himself back into the conversation. He was in it early. He lost to the Titans and then just kind of fell off. And nobody even talked about the Bills. But now that they dominated the Broncos in prime time like that, they beat the Steelers. Josh Allen is proving that he deserves to be in that MVP conversation. He has turned himself around. He is very accurate with the football. He got great numbers. I could totally see him being the MVP of the league if he has a good playoff run. But the MVP voting ends here soon, I believe. So either way, I'm excited to watch the Bills. Second Saturday night game, Carolina versus Green Bay. Let's be honest, if you watch this game, it's clear, to me at least, that the Carolina Panthers are a lot better than the record, and they're going to run the NFC South within 2 or 3 years. They're very, very talented, they're very young, and they have a bright future. The NFC South is kind of older on all 3 teams. They have all old quarterbacks. Question marks in a lot of places. Tom Brady, is he going to be the thing for the Buccaneers? But how long is he going to be there? Drew Brees, this is probably his last year. Matt Ryan and the Falcons are not all that good. A lot of question marks in that division, but one solid thing is that the Carolina Panthers are young. They're building a very good thing, and I very much enjoy it. They've been in a lot of close games, so they're very fun to watch. I like the Carolina Panthers. And the second takeaway is, let's be honest, if the Packers get home field advantage, they're going to walk right into the Super Bowl. It's clear to me. Their defense isn't all that impressive, but they can compete with anybody, and if they get home field advantage, they won't be stopped. Let's be honest. Rodgers for MVP. That's what I'm pushing. Next game up after that is the Dolphins and Patriots. And, the Patriots are officially dead. They're out of the playoffs. And it's a shame, but I don't trust the future for them at all. I do not. And second off here, the Dolphins are a team I don't want to play in the playoffs if I'm an AFC team. They're good. They got a good defense. They got a good rushing attack. And Tua is starting to come along in the passing game. Next game after that, Baltimore versus Jacksonville. And, the Jaguars, they have a garbage O-line. But let's be honest. Gardner Minshew is a good quarterback. He doesn't have a lot of help around him, But he's a good quarterback. I don't know why the Jaguars have been linked to be wanting to take Trevor Lawrence, but I mean, if you're in that position, you have to take Trevor, or you trade out and get an enormous amount of picks and build for the future. But Gardner could be a guy for a team. And I just hope somebody sees that and gives him a chance. And I just hope that it's not Bill Belichick. Lamar is still Lamar, is my second takeaway. He is just a dang cheat code. It's insane that Lamar can be that athletic and that good and do the things that he does, but still be a quarterback. I mean, it's crazy. Normally you don't see guys with his skill set at quarterback, and it's insane that he's been able to still continue to do it. I know it's his only third year doing it, but it's impressive. And I hope he keeps it up because he is entertaining to watch. Next game after that is Texans versus the Indianapolis Colts. And this is 2 times this season that the Colts have almost lost to the Texans. If Watson just had a couple more seconds on the clock, the Texans would be 2-0 versus the Colts this year. And I like the Colts, but in this game, I was pretty much shown that Rivers still has enough in the tank to help the Colts make a run. I really do believe that Rivers could be the piece that helped the Colts get a Super Bowl win this year. I think the Colts are the one team in the AFC that knows how to attack the Kansas City Chiefs, and they'll attack the Chiefs successfully. And I think they are the team that can dethrone the Chiefs in the AFC. And I think they're the only ones. Buffalo Bills have a shot because they can go blow for blow, but the Colts have the best chance, in my opinion. And number 2, the Texans need a coach that cares. They need a coach and a GM that cares about the health and well-being of Deshaun Watson, because they need to put an O-line around him immediately. He needs all the help he can get on the O-line. Watson can make do with average weapons because he is a great quarterback in this league. Anybody that slanders Watson clearly has not watched a game of football in their life. Watson is one of the top quarterbacks in this league. And if you disagree, you clearly are blind. He has no offensive line. He cannot get protected. We do not need to see the Andrew Luck situation happen to Deshaun Watson. He's too talented. Next game after that, Lions versus Titans. My first takeaway is the Titans are one of the most dangerous teams heading into the playoffs in the AFC. I wouldn't want to play them at all. They have a great rushing attack. Tannehill can do whatever he wants sometimes. And their defense is not all that impressive. But if their offense can do what they did against Detroit, I wouldn't want to play them. And the second takeaway is that the Lions need to completely start over from scratch. They need to just completely rebuild bare bones the roster and just restart, because it's a shame. The talent that has been wasted over the decades and decades in Detroit, it's a shame. It is a real shame. First, Barry Sanders, then Megatron, now Matthew Stafford. It's just despicable that an organization could waste so much talent. After that, the 49ers versus the Cowboys. One of the takeaways I got from here is Kyle Shanahan. He can't just make any quarterback look good. A lot of people have said that Kyle Shanahan is this quarterback whisperer, this offensive great mind. He makes Jimmy G look like a great quarterback, but the problem is Jimmy G's not that talented, and neither is Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins is actually far less talented than Jimmy G, and Jimmy G, he makes Jimmy G look amazing. Nick Mullins makes way too many mistakes. The more Nick Mullins plays, the worse he looks, and that's a shame, because at first he looked very good. My second takeaway from this game is that the Cowboys, honestly, in my opinion, Pollard is their better option moving forward at the running back position. He's cheaper. He's just as productive, in my opinion, and he looks like he's just quicker. He has more confidence, and if I was the Cowboys, for the rest of this season and maybe the future, I would look at moving on from Zeke and maybe using Tony Pollard and maybe another running back. The running backs are, if you don't have a top 3 or 4 running back, you might as well just interchangeable, because they're not worth the money. The next game after that is the Seahawks versus the Washington football team. And I'm going to be honest, the Seahawks here are still a team I don't trust moving forward at all. I haven't trusted them all season, even when they were doing great. Their defense is still questionable, in my opinion. But Russell Wilson is still good. But the problem is he does turn the ball over quite a bit. And I don't know why, but he's still broken. He had one in this game, but still. Haskins, my second takeaway here, is Haskins didn't look bad, actually, in this game. He's still not that great of a quarterback. I think he's still a development prospect. And right now in the NFL, a development prospect is not supposed to be a first-round pick, and that's what Haskins was. So he's a bust. But, you can't win with Haskins when he has over 50 attempts. And he had 55 attempts in that game. And he did well, in my opinion. He kept them in it. He kept them alive. But you need a rushing attack. You need to get those running backs healthy. If you want to see Haskins succeed, he can't throw the ball 50 times and succeed. The Bears and the Vikings were the next game. And my takeaway here, number one, is the Vikings will never win anything with Kirk Cousins. I like Kirk a lot, but they will not win a thing as long as Kirk Cousins is the quarterback for them. And number two, are the Bears going to have to keep Mitchell Trubisky? Because Mitch has kind of put them in a spot where they're not going to really be available to take a quarterback high in the first round. They're going to have to either trade up because they have a shot at making the playoffs now. And I think they're going to have to stick with Mitch. I think Mitch is talented. I think Mitch getting benched for Nick Foles is the thing that could put him over the top because he's trying to regain respect from the team. It maybe made him learn a couple lessons sitting back and seeing. And I just like the Mitch that we've seen over the last couple weeks. He's been impressive. I wish that Mitch could play all the time. Next game after this is the Buccaneers versus the Falcons. My takeaways from this game is, number one, the Falcons are the kings of blowing leads. Let's be honest, we all saw it coming when they were beating the Buccaneers, and it's almost sick at this point. It's not funny anymore. It's not a joke anymore. It is a serious, serious problem, and that organization has an issue with it. I don't understand it, but there is a real serious problem, and I don't know where it starts, but there needs to be a complete culture change, and that's going to have to be, you're going to have to get rid of a lot of these players because they're part of that culture, and that's a shame. That is a shame. But now my second takeaway is the refs will cheat for Brady any chance they are given the opportunity. It's ridiculous. If anybody saw that first down, that was ridiculous. The ref moved that ball forward at least 6 inches and then just said first down, and they went to review, and you could clearly see that it was not a first down, and they still gave it to him anyways. Sickening. Just sickening. Next game after that is the Eagles versus the Cardinals. My first takeaway in this game is that the Eagles have found a guy in Jalen Hurts. They found him. Hurts is the first Eagles quarterback since Michael Vick to throw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and run a touchdown. That's impressive for a rookie in his second start and his third game action in the league. He went toe-to-toe with the Arizona Cardinals. And why it's so impressive is because my second takeaway in this game is if the Murray and Hopkins connection is cooking for the Cardinals, watch out because they are dangerous. And Jalen Hurts was keeping up with it with mediocre weapons, in my opinion. Crazy. He was really spreading the ball around too. Nobody on the Eagles, I think, had over 70 yards receiving. Might have been 65, maybe 55 was the highest, but it was crazy that he spread the ball around that much, and he ran the ball well. I really like Jalen Hurts as an Eagle, but I really don't like the Eagles as an organization, as a team, just because I'm from the other side of PA. I'm a Steeler fan. Like I said, we will talk about the Steelers, but what a shame. Moving on from that, though, Jets versus the Rams, and there's a lot I could say about this game, but I'm just, like I said, 2 takeaways for every game. That's what I got, and number one, even when the Jets win, they lose. Sorry, Jets fans. If they somehow mess up getting Trevor Lawrence, I will completely agree that the Jets organization and the fans are cursed for life. I feel bad for you, Jets fans, right now, just knowing that your future is in such disarray that we could be looking at this game maybe 5-10 years down the road and be like, yep, this is the game that if the Jets would have just lost, they could have had Trevor Lawrence. And it's going to be insane to look back if that actually happens. It's too early to tell at this point. 2 weeks left in the season, but man, that would be a shame. Second takeaway is I have no clue what to think of the Rams right now, but I think this was good for them to lose. I think it was. They're a team that I think was playing a little too cocky. They just beat the Patriots, and that was something that Sean McVay was so excited about, and I think their heads were big because they were like, we just beat our guy, Bill Belichick. We just beat the greatest coach of all time. and they were riding high off of that. And I think it was good to bring them back down to earth with a loss to the Jets. Maybe you just beat the greatest coach of all time, but you just lost to the worst team in the league right now. So, next game after this was Chiefs versus Saints. And, even when the Chiefs seem disinterested and don't really feel like winning, they still somehow find a way to do it. It's insane. Sometimes when you watch the Chiefs, it feels like they don't care, and they really don't want to be on the field, and they're barely trying, and they're still beating up on teams. I mean, this game looked close in the scoreboard, but wasn't really that close. And, Breeze still has it a little bit, but you can tell that his arm he doesn't have that arm strength, and I don't think the Saints can dink and dunk their way to a Super Bowl this year. I don't think it's going to happen for them, especially with the Packers being right in line to get home field advantage. There's no way Drew Brees can go in there and win a game. No way. Next game, though, I got two more games. The Browns versus Giants and then the Monday night game. But we'll start with the Browns versus Giants first because I still have a little more to say about that Pittsburgh game, and I'm kind of letting it sit for a minute because I need to calm myself. But Browns versus Giants, the Browns' future is bright. I love Baker. I love Stefanski. They're set up for success, and Kevin Stefanski is a guy. He's the head coach of the future for them. I'm glad they finally found their guy because it's been such a long time. Shout out to friend of the show, Peyton Doyle. Guy hasn't seen a winning team his entire life, and now he's going to see one. So congrats to you, man. And let's be honest, this game shouldn't have been on Sunday Night Football. This game stunk. That's my other takeaway from this game. But yeah. Now my takeaways for the Sunday night game. And I'm going to have to take a drink before I start this because I got my two takeaways and I'm going to go on a rant because I'm a little disgusted. I'm a little tired of it. So my two takeaways from this game is, number one, the Steelers are a broken team. I don't know what happened over the last 4 weeks, but they're in shambles. They're a mess, and it's sickening to watch. Number two, is Pittsburgh even going to win the AFC North at this point? My goodness, what happened? It just went from 11-0 to 11-3, and now they went from the first seed to the third seed, and now we're talking about, are they going to win the AFC North? Are you serious? As a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and as someone who grew up watching them, the only coach I've ever known for Pittsburgh is Mike Tomlin. And something I've respected about Mike Tomlin is that he's a team guy. He's a guy that the team always tends to back up and love, and no matter what happens, he doesn't say a whole lot to the media. His interviews with the media are pretty funny half the time because he doesn't say anything and he just kind of circles back to the same 3 or 4 things. He's entertaining. He's a great head coach in this football league. But over the last 4 weeks, I've seen a team meltdown worse than I have ever seen a team meltdown in my entire life. Ever. And it started off with us struggling in Dallas, and then we started struggling against everybody. And it was like, what's going on? We could barely beat a JV Ravens team. And then we come out, we lose to the Washington football team. We lose to a team that doesn't even have a name. And then we lose to the Buffalo Bills in prime time. Honestly, that game wasn't as close as the score suggests either. And there were so many possessions in the first half of that Buffalo Bills Steelers game. It was a very long first half. Honestly, very long. And then we get to the game tonight versus a 2-10-1 Bengals team that has their third string quarterback playing. And you could clearly tell that this Bengals team did not come out with a lot of confidence that they were going to win. And then there were 16 possessions between both teams in the first half, and Steelers went into halftime 17-0. Losing 17-0 to the Bengals. I'm frustrated. It's getting tough to watch at this point. And the problem partly lies with the assistant coaching, in my opinion. Tomlin has never really ever had those great assistant coaches. It's been the Tomlin show, and he has his guys do their thing. He doesn't bring in anybody that's all that great. Keith Butler wouldn't be a defensive coordinator on any other team in the entire league. Randy Fichtner would not be an offensive coordinator on any other team in the entire league. Why are they our offensive and defensive coordinators? The Steelers' defense is supremely talented, and yet all the problems of the Keith Butler defense of 3-4 years ago are still right there. They're still all there. But the problem is the talent covers up for it and makes it look like he's good at his job, and he's still clearly not. Randy Fichtner, that's Big Ben's guy. That's one of the reasons he has the job. But let's be honest, if you watch the Steelers games, what is the play calling? There is no creativity. They cannot run the ball unless they pull half of the other offensive linemen from the other side. Their running backs are completely blind, don't see a single hole. It is frustrating at this point. Oh my goodness. Benny Snell was running the ball okay tonight, but he was also playing the Bengals. They're 2-10-1. That team played up. That team was motivated. The Steelers came in there flat with no motivation. At this point, you should be playing for your life, because at this point, you might lose out. There's a chance that you lose out. You're done. You're a wild card team. You're out in the first round of the playoffs when you started 11-0. I think that might be the first time that happens. A team starts 11-0, loses out, and gets bounced in the first round. This might be the first time in history that it'll happen, because right now I don't have a whole lot of faith in Pittsburgh. Next week against the Indianapolis Colts, I have no faith. And you would think coming off of 3 losses, the Steelers are going to come out. 2 losses. You'd think the Steelers are going to come out and want to play, because this is a division rival. This is a game with meaning, and they just came out flat from the get-go. One of the best bets of the night, if you were a bettor, would have been for a punt on the first drive, because that was a lock. That was a lock. No one was going to score. And, hats off to the Bengals for capitalizing off the Steelers' miscues and turnovers. Good for you. But come on, Pittsburgh. You are way better than that team. Or at least you should be. Where's that energy? Where's the creativity? Where's the fun? Are you guys even having fun at this point? I'm tired of it. I don't even want to watch next week's game versus Indianapolis, because I honestly think it might be a blowout at this point. I don't have a lot of faith. I don't have any faith in the Steelers. Prove me wrong next week, Pittsburgh. Prove me wrong. It's just sickening. It's just sickening. Moving on, though. Carson Wentz landed himself in the news recently. Yeah, he says he doesn't want to be in Philly anymore if he isn't the starter. He wants out. Do you blame him? I would too. A lot of people say he's not very good. I beg to differ. I like Wentz. I think he's a talented guy. I think the situation he's been put in is not all that great. But the question now is, what will happen to him next? Where does he fit? What will people have to find out when they look at him and say, can you be the quarterback for our team next year? Does he still love football? Can he mentally still handle being a starting NFL quarterback? Is he a true leader? These are the questions that need to be asked. And there will be teams that will definitely look at this, because they're not in position to get a guy. Who knows if they'll have the cap space? But they're not in position to draft a guy. There's a couple free agents that might be out there, but are they better than Wentz? But then the question after that is Wentz worth the price tag? I'm not sure. My friend Peyton, I mentioned him earlier, he's a Browns fan. He hosts the Peyton Doyle Show. He told me this weeks ago when I asked for some of my followers' bold takes. He said Wentz will retire in the next couple of years like Luck did, because he's going to lose his love for the game of football. There's a little bit of difference between the Luck situation and the Wentz situation. And if I was Wentz, my love for the game of football would be gone completely. The business side has chewed him up and spit him out harder than anybody else. But the difference between both of these players, Andrew Luck was one of the most highly sought after prospects coming out when he was drafted in the NFL. He was never challenged by another quarterback from the second he came into the league. He was just so badly broken and beaten down by injuries and having to go to rehab that it made him lose his love for the game. The difference, though, once Luck was drafted number 1, Wentz was drafted number 2. Not that far position in the draft, not even that many years in between them. Wentz was a Division I FCS guy. Luck went to Stanford. Luck, probably one of the smartest people to ever play in the NFL, just with his brains. But also a very quiet guy, a great leader, sometimes too good of a leader for his own good, and that led to his injuries because he didn't want to offend anybody and feel like he was disrespecting anybody by saying they needed to do a better thing. And I don't know if Wentz had that same knowledge, but Wentz was a second overall pick. He was an MVP candidate before he tore his ACL in 2017. Then he tears his ACL, has to sit down, and then watch his backup quarterback lead his team to a Super Bowl. That backup was Nick Foles. Foles can't even beat out Trubisky at this point. Let's be honest. If you watch the Bears this season, the best quarterback on the Bears is Mitchell Trubisky. Wentz has to come to work every day now. Probably look at the picture up on the wall of Nick Foles holding that Lombardi trophy. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. You can picture it in your head. He's going to have to look at the statue of Nick Foles outside of the stadium. He has to drive to work, see the statue, and then come in and see that every single day to remind him of his injury and the time when he wasn't there for his team, probably in his own eyes. He was still a young guy in the league, too. And that would bother me. And then you consider last year, in December, 4-0 in December. Carried a team full of practice squad players into the playoffs last year, then got hurt. To see Josh McCown get hurt and then lose to the Seattle Seahawks. Now Wentz did all that only for the organization, to show that they don't believe in him and that they needed to light a fire under him when they drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round of the draft, applying more pressure to Wentz, a guy who was already kind of mentally with the organization, unsure. And now we're talking about Wentz like he's a bad quarterback. He's had the most turnovers in the NFL this season, and he hasn't even started 2 games. I'm not defending Wentz at all. He has played bad this season. But if you were in his situation, let's be honest, it would be very hard to not be just mentally broken. I mean, the challenges he's been put up with between the nagging injuries in his career, people saying that he's injury prone and he can't do it, and that, he's broken, he can't be fixed. Up the organization. I just had the best month I've ever played in football. What do we do? Bring me some help. Nope, we're going to draft a quarterback to try to replace you. I think Wentz came into the season believing that the organization didn't believe in him, which inevitably slowly destroyed his confidence, even more than it was already. I can see why Wentz doesn't want to be in Philly anymore, because if I was him, I wouldn't want to either. I would want to restart somewhere else. And honestly, I completely understand that his time in Philly is over, but I want to see him succeed somewhere else. Because I like Carson Wentz. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he gets the respect he deserves, but he does struggle. But I think a restart somewhere else would do him wonders. The question is, where would that be? Who's willing to pay the price? And will it be next year? That's the question at hand. And I don't know if there's many teams out there that would be willing to pay the price. But imagine if the San Francisco 49ers would move on from Jimmy G and then go get a guy like Carson Wentz. Imagine. A lot of people say the Colts. I don't like that fit at all. Really? But the Patriots have cap space. Imagine if the Patriots got a hold of a guy like Carson Wentz. We said this about Cam Newton, like, oh, Cam Newton. I don't know if Cam Newton could be fixed. I mean, there's a lot of problems up there, but if the Patriots could figure out that offensive line, Edelman come back, get him a weapon or two, I think he could be good there, Wentz. And I would hate to see it personally because I don't like the Patriots, but man, it'd be cool. I just want to see Wentz to be successful somewhere else because I like the guy. He's a good quarterback in my opinion. He just needs a second chance somewhere else. And sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. But if you're Wentz, you can only wish. And I wish him the best. Moving on from Wentz, though, I want to talk about the NBA because it is coming back. Tomorrow night. Well, not tomorrow night. Tonight. The Warriors are taking on the Nets, and the Lakers are taking on somebody. Don't judge me. I didn't look ahead at the schedule. I don't know. Oh, no, that's Christmas. Anyways, moving on. Here's my early prediction for awards, East and West champion, and the champion in the NBA. So let's start off with my prediction, my early prediction for the Western Conference champion is the LA Lakers. I like their roster. I like what they did this year. And I'm a big fan of LeBron, personally. That's part of the reason why. My Eastern Conference champions are the Brooklyn Nets. I think KD's going to help carry them through the East. KD's too good not to make it to the NBA Finals. My champions, though, of the NBA are the Lakers. I think LeBron's finally going to overcome KD because KD doesn't have Steph and Clay and Draymond and Iggy and Steve Kerr. He has Kyrie. And Kyrie ain't Steph. He ain't Clay. I like the Nets roster. But I think LeBron and AD are going to be too much for them to handle. So that's my champions, early prediction champions. My MVP is Luka. He's the favorite right now. It makes the most sense. It's the best storyline. Defensive player of the year is Rudy Gobert. My rookie of the year is LaMelo Ball. Those are my award predictions and my finals predictions. I don't know who finals MVP would be, but let's be honest. If you had to guess, I'd say LeBron James if he's in it. And he wins it. And here are my top things that my top 4 things that I'm looking forward to this NBA offseason. Not the NBA offseason. I'm going to restart that. Here are my top 4 things that I'm looking forward to in this NBA season. Number 1, will the Lakers be able to repeat? They loaded back up. And I think that this is a better roster to start the season than they had last year. But the West is deep. The second thing I'm looking forward to are the Miami Heat legit contenders. I think they are. They made a run the bubble last year. But can they keep up with the Nets and the Bucks? That's the question at hand. Number 3, will the Nuggets continue to develop? They don't get talked about enough because they're a homegrown roster, they're a small market team, and they're the Denver Nuggets. But they reached the Western Conference Finals last year. They had a deep run in the bubble, upsetting the Clippers, and actually taking the Lakers to a Game 7, if I remember correctly. I have them as the second best team in the West right now, but can they be number 1? Can they dethrone the Lakers? It's going to be interesting to watch. I like their team this year, though. And number 4, what will happen with James Harden? Clearly, he doesn't want to be in Houston. He doesn't seem to care about much right now. Who will come and get him? Who will save him? Who will get him out of the mess that he thinks that he is in? It's going to be interesting to watch. But I'm excited for the NBA season this year. I'm excited that it's about to kick off. Christmas Day is going to be a fun time. I might have a smaller episode where I preview some of those games and preview some bowl games here coming up because it's going to be a good time. Anyways, if I don't get to talk to you before then, Merry Christmas. I hope you enjoy your day. Hope you get to spend some time with your family. If you don't, make sure to speak to your family. Call them, talk to them, tell them you love them, tell them you care about them. But make sure you have a good time. Make sure you stay safe. And, thank you again for listening. I really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you like the new logo. And check out all the social medias if you want. I'll leave the links below. But anyways, I appreciate and love every single one of you guys. It means so much to me. Thanks for listening. And have a good week.